Well, sometimes when you throw a Pokeball at a Pokemon, it doesn't always catch it. And that somewhat describes this episode of Dragon Ball Super. So alrighty guys, it is Qaaman here today, bringing you my episode 64 review of Dragon Ball Super. And I will be bringing you the good, the bad, and the ugly of this episode. So let's get started. So, boy, the episode starts off with Vegeta pretty much pummeling Black, which was actually probably one of the more exciting points of this episode. Is we kind of see a tailoring off from the previous episode where Vegeta kind of just showed his dominance over the fight. And in the process of Vegeta doing this, Black starts to begin to discuss how the mortals in this place, just like Vegeta and Trunks, kind of turn their anger into their power. And we've obviously seen this throughout the Dragon Ball series a lot, especially with Gohan, and you know, to some degree with Goku too, where we see characters kind of using their power with rage, and it's not really what their power would be at a regular point in time. And in the process of doing this, Black is actually manipulating his ki with his hands and produces a psionic scythe. And I'm using this term kind of based off of, you know, what Geekdom pointed out from a lot of those old video games. And with this psionic scythe, it literally like slices open a vortex. And Black like now creates like all of these different like mini Blacks, kind of like what we saw in the Copy Vegeta arc. And it was actually very similar to how also when we look at the Copy Vegeta arc, the tone of color was kind of purplish, how we see it now. Black's hair became more purplish as opposed to more of the pink Super Saiyan rose color. So we see like a big fight turn out between both Goku and Vegeta going up against Zamasu and Black once again, even though Goku Black is obviously Zamasu, but I'm just gonna say Black to differentiate it. They're fighting, and in the process of doing this, we see later on in the fight that Goku Black's multiple Goku Blacks that are now like being summoned with this mysterious vortex are like now distracting Goku and Vegeta at the same time. And in the process of doing this, Zamasu is now approaching Mai, Trunks, and Bulma. Now, here is where I have a problem with part of this episode, but I'm not going to mention it just yet. I'm going to save it for later on in the episode, and I'm pretty sure you guys will probably realize where I'm coming with this. And meanwhile, in the meantime, we're seeing the multiple Goku Blacks entering the battlefield, just like how we saw earlier throughout the Dragon Ball series, where we've seen many villains kind of manipulate their bodies to make multiple, characters of themselves, especially Cell, when we see it in the anime adaptation of his fight with Goku. So it seems like Zamasu is pretty much coming towards Bulma, Trunks, and Mai. And in the process of this, they're trying to prepare to stop him. And what do? Well, Bulma's pretty much saying that Trunks has to learn the Mafuba, and Trunks is using these weird Ginyu Force type poses because he thinks that's the way it's supposed to be done. But then Bulma now shows him a video of her recording Piccolo using the Mafuba, and that's what Trunks uses to apparently learn this. I thought that was funny. And here is where we go back to more old school Dragon Ball. So now, in the process of Zamasu coming over, Bulma's like, don't worry son, I'm gonna take care of this guy. She goes towards Zamasu, she starts trying to seduce him, and for those of you who are more familiar with the manga adaptation of Dragon Ball, or if you're more familiar with the Japanese version, she kind of uses an art form which is referred to as Irome. If I'm pronouncing the name wrong, please correct me, but pretty much Irome is pretty much when you're trying to use a minor form of seduction to try and, I guess you can say, convert your opponent into falling for you. We saw this in early Dragon Ball, when we saw Ranfan in the tournament when she was trying to use it on Nam, and obviously it failed, but that was one of the techniques that she used. So Bulma fails in this process and Zamasu throws her away, and Trunks somehow, in the process of watching his mother put out this video of Piccolo using the Mafuba, he magically learns how to do it, and then in a very weird fashion, he traps Zamasu with the evil containment wave with the assistance of Mai holding it, and they trap him in. But just like on Pokemon, sometimes they don't always catch him, and Zamasu pops out because they forgot the actual demon seal, which is what was used to actually trap him. Now, here is where we get into the more expected events of this episode. Later on, we see Zamasu and Black once again fuse, just as expected, that everybody has been expecting for the entire Dragon Ball Super series. We saw this coming episodes ago. They finally did it, and it's no shock to anybody. But here is the part of the review where I give you guys some interesting details. I'm going to skip talking about the action for just a second, because I really feel I need to talk about these interesting details that I observed, that I kind of have a problem with. And I'm telling you guys right now, I'm being honest here. I'm not trying to sugarcoat the series, and I'm not trying to overly criticize it. There's just certain things I have a problem with. First major problem is Zamasu flying over to go see Bulma, Trunks, and Mai. Now, Mai observed him with her binoculars, and she noticed that he was flying over. I find it very hard to believe that a being like Zamasu, who is pretty much, I guess you could say, he was an apprentice to the Supreme Kai, who was obviously Gowasu, a being who, as we've seen throughout the series, the Supreme Kais have the ability to pretty much traverse the entire universe using instant transmission or being extremely fast. So when you put in the combination of a possible instant transmission with extreme speed, it's very hard for me to believe that Zamasu took that long to get to where they were. And especially if Mai's binoculars can see him coming, I find it extremely unbelievable to think that if your binoculars can see him coming, that he took that long to get towards you, because the binoculars can only go so far. And these are beings in the Dragon Ball universe that, if you want to believe they move faster than light, if you want to believe they move faster than sound, I'm not going to get into that whole argument right now. But the point is, they move extremely fast, and to believe that he took that long is extremely hard to believe. But Dragon Ball has done this before, where we see in the Buu Saga where Kid Trunks took forever to get the Dragon Radar, even though he was somewhat distracted because of Super Saiyan 3 Goku. So that's the first major nitpick I had of the episode. The other major nitpick I have would have to be Trunks learning the Mafuba. So it seems to me like they're kind of taking the Mafuba as a joke technique. If you look in Dragon Ball, Master Mutaito was an older man, and it took him a very long time to master this Mafuba technique. And Master Roshi, who's also extremely old, didn't even have, if you guys remember correctly, Master Roshi learned the Mafuba obviously because of what he observed from Mutaito, and it took him years to learn it too. Goku pretty much learned the Mafuba within probably a day at most, or maybe a few days, depending on the unexpected point of time that passed. And now Trunks is learning it from watching a fucking video of it? I'm sorry, guys. If you guys don't see a problem with this, then I don't... Okay, well... If you guys don't see a problem with this, then I don't know what is. Like, I'm not trying to... I know it's comedic effect. I know that Dragon Ball characters have been shown to learn things very fast, as how when Goku first saw Roshi do the Kamehameha, he instantly just did it on the car. But by watching a fucking video with no instruction? That's the problem. At least Goku got instruction from Roshi and had to practice it on Turtle. Trunks saw a fucking video and he learned it that fast? So it's like if I watch a YouTube video of a guy flying a fucking plane, you could just throw me in a plane and I'll be just fine on my first try. Are you serious? Like, I just had a problem with how fast Trunks learned it because of a video. That's the only problem I had with that. If he practiced it a bit, I can understand, but that quickly, that's something I got a problem with. And the other criticism I kind of have was the Vortex kind of seemed too plot heavy. It's like we need a Vortex that just has a random power that's gonna distract Goku and Vegeta to give Zamasu time to go find Bulma, Trunks, and Mai. But in reality, if Zamasu really wanted to, he should have been over there in a few seconds, if not under a minute. And they shouldn't have had time to prepare for anything, let alone Trunks learn how to do a technique that takes a lot of practice and discipline in just a few minutes by watching a video. I don't know, guys. That just seemed a little bit poorly written to me. And I'm trying to be nice with my words. I don't want to sound like I'm ranting. I don't want to sound overly critical. But I'm just being honest with my observations. That was bad. And pretty much, guys, to talk more so about the action sequences, because I think I've already put out all of my nitpicks. The action sequences were below average. I mean, we didn't really see much action except for Vegeta at the beginning, which was actually the best sequences. We saw him pummeling Black, and the sequences with Goku and Vegeta fighting against those copy Black Gokus, I mean Goku Blacks, they weren't really doing anything. They were just pretty much blasting at him, so we really didn't enjoy the action sequences. And you'd say to yourself, well, if Black could do this, why didn't he do it before? You know, why didn't he unleash a bunch of Goku Blacks to terrorize the Earth? Now, I understand he was saying that, in essence, with him, he's kind of learning his own powers, but that just seemed weird to me. And especially it seemed weird how his scythe can now open up a vortex. So, pretty much, guys, the action sequences weren't that good. The animation was obviously a drop down, but it wasn't horrible, I would say. But it was definitely a notch down, in my opinion. And overall, guys, I mean, if I had to pick my memorable moment, I would probably have to say the fusion sequence looked cool. I kind of like the way they made the Potara earrings have like that glowing light, and it added a lot of suspense as you seeing preparing for it. I do think, however, that because of all the spoilers that have been leaked about Dragon Ball Super, it took away from this moment. If I knew nothing about the possibility of this fusion before this episode, I feel like the fusion would have had a lot more, I guess you could say, substance for the episode. But because pretty much everybody knew this was going to happen, it took away from it. And because of the fact that in the preview for the last episode, they showed it happening. But either way, that would probably have to be my memorable moment. And for my key discussion today, guys, I don't want to sound like the only guy who's talking here, okay? So I want you guys to go in depth and discuss with me in the comment section below. I will be responding to many of your comments. I want you guys to criticize or share your thoughts, or if you agree with me about the whole thing I said about the whole learning the Mafuba so easily. I mean, looking at how Roshi and Mutaito and even Tien, I mean, Tien obviously learned it very fast too, but he had a first-hand insight of observing Roshi using it on King Piccolo, and in conjunction with that, I mean, Tien didn't just do it like in just 2 seconds. I mean, he actually practiced it. So with that said, guys, tell me if you agree with what I said about the Mafuba. Do you think I'm being too critical on Trunks learning it so fast, or do you think in reality that it should be learned that fast if Trunks is just a mysterious, mystical, legendary fighter like many of these Dragon Ball characters are? I want to get your thoughts, guys. That's our key discussion for today. So overall, guys, I'm just going to tell you the truth. I thought this was a bad episode. The action wasn't very good. There was a funny, humorous scene where we saw, you know, Bulma trying to, you know, seduce Zamasu, which failed. And we also saw them trying to hold, like, you know, Zamasu into the jar, which was kind of funny. But other than that, I really didn't take anything, you know, nicely from this episode. It just didn't feel good. It just felt like they needed to stall the fusion of Zamasu and Goku Black for the next episode, so they're just gonna slow down the pacing and all of the events of this episode to pretty much allow this to happen. That's how it felt, guys. That's my honest opinion. I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm just sharing my honest thoughts, and I'm trying to do it in an intellectual manner without ranting or going over and beyond. So overall, guys, for my predictions for the upcoming preview, it seems like what I could predict, as we've seen in the Super formula so far, is that they are going to struggle in the upcoming episode. Dragon Ball, and I've been watching a lot of animes as of late on Crunchyroll. One thing that I will say Dragon Ball has is that a lot of times they want to kind of show off a villain's or a hero's new powers in an episode. For example, if you guys remember in Dragon Ball Z, when Gohan was fighting against Cell as a Super Saiyan 2, he had like a whole episode where he was like just keeping up with Cell's speed, and then he punched him twice. That kind of showed how strong Gohan was compared to Cell. And then in the next episode, which, if I remember the title correctly, it was Cell's Major Breakdown, that's when Gohan really started kicking his ass even more and Cell started getting desperate. And what I'm saying this for is to say that in the upcoming episode, I strongly predict that that is going to be us seeing the newfound powers of this new merged Zamasu. And the cool thing is that if Goku Black was able to use this sight technique that could create a vortex that could create a bunch of mini Goku Blacks, You can only imagine what this merged Zamasu can now do now that he's pretty much saying that he's immortal, and he also has a lot of those combined powers. So I think it's something to look forward to, and those are my overall predictions. I think the action sequences are probably going to be even better, and I also look forward to really seeing the next episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed my super review. This wasn't a rant. This was, I would say, an honest criticism of it, and I just didn't think it was a good episode. I'd give the episode 2 stars at the absolute most, and I only really do that because the beginning part of the episode was decent with Vegeta punching the shit out of him and Bulma's Irome, and in addition to the fact that there was some humor with Trunks doing the Ginyu poses, the humor kind of saved it from being a 1. So, with everything said, my review and my predictions and my preview for the next episode, I'm Qaaman, and I'm signing out. And please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys.